We are live. I'm just gonna go and check, make sure we're live on the other platforms, and then we come and we kick off. Yes, we're live in an Instagram. And let me make sure we're live on LinkedIn. Because most of people, yes, okay, cool. Perfect. Let me switch this from on. And I'm back to you. Sid, how are you?
Very good. Alhamdulillah. How about you?
I'm good. I'm good. I'm so happy with doing this. I think I'm very, very excited about it. So, good afternoon, everyone. Happy Friday. I'm so happy to be here today. Hello from London. Um, and um, I'm so excited for today because I have a very special guest, very close to my heart. And I think we're going to have a lot of things that we're going to talk about today. And he's going to share a lot of nuggets of wisdoms. And I think one thing I like about Sid, we met 2 years ago in Google. I think the number one um, thing that I like the most about you is he's so real. He's so true to himself, and I kind of just I love how real he is. And in today's world, it's really difficult to hold on to your true self. So, Sid, I'm gonna leave it to you to tell people who are joining us today who you are and what you're currently doing.
Okay. Thank you so much, Razan. Thank you so much for this opportunity. I've been watching the series from LinkedIn in the past few weeks. It was really, really amazing. I'm very happy that today I'm in the other side of it. And I hope people who are with us today are going to be liking it. So yeah, again, thank you so much. So for those who don't know me, my name is Ahmed Hamani. I was born and raised in Algeria and now based in Ireland, in Dublin, where I work for Google as account manager for almost 3 years now. And it's insane how times passes by. um,
Fly.
exactly. Wow. Like I really remember, like it was like yesterday, my first day on Google, or even prior coming to Google, and now it's already been 3 years, and wow.
So, what do
So
you
yeah,
do at Google?
yes. So I'm an account manager. I work in as an Google Ads consultant in a way, helping customers grow their business using the Google Ads technologies, making sure we set them up for success, solve their problem, present the latest technology that we have, and we do have a lot in Google, and making sure that we are growing the customers and growing the region. And that was one of the most important things to me before joining Google. And I remember having this discussion with my first manager, someone who's always been driven in growing our country's region overall. So I'm very happy that I've been having the chance to do that in a big company like Google with amazing product that they have. An amazing customer I work with as well in MENA, whether it's Dubai, Egypt, North Africa, Saudi Arabia, etc., etc. So that's in a nutshell what I've been doing. Prior Google, uh, I had I started my career in computer science as an engineer. I moved a bit to consultancy. Then I had another master in economics, and here I am in Google. I think we'll go into details a bit later on, but that's me in a nutshell.
So, Sid, today, most of the people who join us are people who are on either look for the next opportunity or
Hmm.
people who are already have jobs, but they're looking to move to either a higher role or a completely different role. And I want us to start with your journey.
Hmm.
How did you did engineering, economic, you went consultancy, and then you end up at Google. So I want you to take us through the journey. And with the journey, let's also touch us on the thinking behind it. Like when you were in the university, before the university, when you were going to university, did you always wanted to take an engineering, or you just had to take engineering because this is what most of people do? Um, when you graduated, you end up in consultancy. I- Is this is something that you always wanted, or how things worked for you?
Perfect. Okay, so let me first start by saying that my pathway is not a normal pathway for people who are in my job, right? So if people want to join Google specifically, there's other pathways to take, and be more than happy to connect them with the right people. However, for people who have the same mindset as me, I think there is a lot of things to learn from it. So yeah, to answer your question, let's start from the beginning. And for me, the beginning was the baccalaureate exam. I don't know if it's common in other countries, but back home in Algeria, when you finish high school, you have a big national exam, and it basically decides your fate. No pressure, but it does decide your fate. So at the
Yeah, we have the same in Sudan.
so that was for me the first milestone. Obviously, I worked very, very hard for it. Alhamdulillah, I got very good grade that allowed me to pick whatever I like. At the time, it's actually a funny story, and I think you'll notice a trend. But my choice of university was based on a very silly thing, but I'm very grateful I took that decision. So I was not planning to go in computer science. I've always liked business. I've always liked lawyers from TV shows or stupid things that I was watching at the time. But in Algeria at the time, at least, we didn't have necessarily big universities or good universities that had good programs when it comes to this. And at the time, I was not ready to leave the country as well. So there was a couple of choices, obviously, like becoming a doctor, architect, engineer, or wherever. I choose this one in particular because at the time I was with my best friend at the time in high school. He wanted to do this, and he always liked engineering. He always liked computer science, right? And he was very good at it, while I was normal, you know. And he told me about this school that I ended up when we were going to. It's called the National Higher National School of Computer Science in Algiers, and he caught my attention by saying one thing. He said like usually it's very exclusive. There's like 200 spots every year, and the highest people in the baccalaureate exam get it. You know, so I was like, that's a good challenge. You know, I want to be there. You know, firstly, I want to be in the top student. Secondly, I think it could be interesting for me because I'm going to be surrounded by brilliant people. 200 top student in the country. Thirdly, I like computer science. It's the future, wherever. It's a good industry to be in because it's not something outdated. It's something that's going to be there for a long time. So why not? And I literally picked my choice based on this. And I'm very grateful I did because at the end, being surrounded by all the amazing people I got the chance to meet was one of the best things that ever happened to me. And although now I switched to another thing, but I've learned a lot of valuable stuff at the time. And I'm still in Google, which is a tech company technically. So wherever I learned at the time, I'm still using it now, even though I wanted to switch, you know? Anyway, that's the first step. So alhamdulillah, I got good grades in baccalaureate. I was able to join school. It was very, very difficult school. Standards are very high, professors are good, competition is extremely high. A couple of mistakes, you're out. So you always have to be there. Consistency, discipline, those are a lot of things that I learned at the time. However, soon within the school, I realized that in order to have the career I want, school is not enough. You know, you have to start preparing your plan early on. So school was 5 years, engineering nonstop. So first year was adaptation, getting used to it, etc., etc. Then starting the second year, I start looking for clubs that used to organize like different kind of events, career fair, wherever. So that's where I started, having that extra project or extracurricular activities that I wanted to do in order to upskill myself, especially soft skill, because engineering can be very technical, but at the time I realized that you also need a lot of soft skills, and that was for me one way to do it. So for me, that was a big milestone. Without going into details to what I did, we worked on a lot of events, etc., etc. But it allowed me to have some exposure first, do something extra, learn a lot of soft skills. إلى آخره. A third one milestone for me was doing some leadership programs at the time. So there was a lot of exchange opportunities to the US or other countries, and I was fortunate to be accepted in one program in Georgetown University in Washington, D.C. And for me, that was also a big milestone because it was my first international experience. So imagine a boy who lived most of his life in Algeria, traveled a little bit in the region, but nothing outside of it. That was a big opportunity for me to go there and see the world, get in touch with people from different countries across the world, and also see the world actually. Like US, it's huge. Washington D.C. is a big city. For me, it was first time where I'm like, okay, I like this. These are the kind of things I used to watch in TV shows. So I started dreaming more. After it, within the end of the third year, I noticed that I was liking more the extra curriculum activities more than the core what I was doing in the engineering school. So I thought maybe it's not something I want to do on the long term. So I started thinking about alternative. How can I switch? What should I do after I finish? I didn't want to give up. I wanted to finish it till the end, but I wanted to slowly shift towards something else. And at the time, what seems logical for me was to go into consulting, specifically big four companies. I had a couple of friends that joined big four companies before me, and that kind of gave me an idea. Going back again to the importance of being surrounded by brilliant people who will always open up new doors for you. So it seems like logical for me. So I started kind of looking for opportunities there. However, it's extremely competitive market. A lot of other students want to go there as well. It's big brands, very interesting projects, very well paid back home. So it was not that easy. However, what I remember doing, something very interesting, I went to the one big four firm that never attended any career fair, that never hired from my school, never came to my school, never even heard of my school, and kind of create an opportunity, like send them my CV, send them our qualification, what we do, etc., and kind of creating an urgency for them to hire me. Like this is what you're missing on, this is what you need. I know you are not planning to hire or whatever, but that's the thing. It was not easy. Uh, I've tried it with other companies as well. They never replied. One woman did reply to HR, and the moment she replied, I bombarded her. Like this is what we can do. This is what I can think. I've tried. I talked to my friends at other companies, and I told them like this is what I've been doing, etc., etc. So it'd be interesting for me to join as an intern, blah 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 blah. But anyway, alhamdulillah, again, I was able to
No,
find.
that's very important actually, Sid. Like I love this. Like this is exactly what I'm doing, why I'm doing this. I think there's so much things that you just mentioned here, and I know you want to finish the journey, but I think it's very important just to stop here and acknowledge the fact that first of all, thinking out, realizing that you're not in the right place and or this is not your passion, and deciding to continue to get your degree, but at the same time see what alternatives are available. That's one. From the beginning, actually, before one, like number zero, I think having that challenge attitude, like I am going to be within the top performing student in the country and I'm going to go to the highest education institute there, and then making it there, and then there, once you get there, you realize, okay, this is not what I'm actually very passionate about, but you know what, I'm going to make the most out of the situation where I am, and I'm going to start to explore other things and see how I can make the best out of it. And then the volunteering, networking, connections, projects get you into the DC situation, which is these are like kind of like I see the chain kind of linked, but I love the fact that you went after the consultancy that does not actually hire from your school. There's no people from there. And you went to them, and it's not like you just send your CV and I was like, hey, I'm looking for a job. No, you actually told them why they should um they should hire you. And I love a sentence you said. You said, I created an urgency for them to hire me. Tell us more about that, Sid.
Okay, so yeah, I think you frame it in a very very nice way. At the time, as I mentioned, like I tried kind of do a gap analysis, try to explain to them what they might be missing out. I didn't have a lot of information because I didn't know anyone inside, but I guess because they were not necessarily working with people from micro or wherever, they didn't have that. Some of it was true, some of it they already have it, but sometimes you have to like shoot blindly to get something, so yeah, I try to get inspired what other people did in similar companies. Try to explain to them how that can be beneficial for them. Try to explain how my own experience can relate to them, like to bring to the table, etc., etc. And I think that was for them at least enough to have a conversation. Obviously, after it comes a lot of interviews, a lot of discussions, etc., etc. But I think going back then, I remember the thing that I struggled the most with was getting noticed. Like if you get that interview, even now I give this advice to a lot of people who reach out to you, especially students, even like my siblings, family, wherever. If you get an interview, it's on you. You have to prepare, you have to kill it, etc., etc. But before getting the interview is very complicated. A lot of time, obviously, recruiters receive hundreds of CV. Usually, they have their own processes. They hire from the same school. They have now automated system, which doesn't necessarily help when you're a student, etc. So you have to give it the most to maximize your chances. Doesn't mean you're going to succeed, but again, sending that email, making it clear, trying to create an urgency, show the value in the beginning, do something that maybe other people didn't do. These are things that can help you maximize your chance of getting an interview. As I said again, competitor analysis between brackets, it's also important. It's crucial to be realistic sometimes. Like if you're competing with 200 people on the same role, obviously you can still get it, but it's difficult. While you can go to another company that's where competition is way lower, and again, you're maximizing your talking statistics. That's one thing I learned in my school at the time in engineering. We studied a lot of math and a lot of statistics, and that was one of the things I really enjoyed when I was doing the school. So yeah, that was the strategy behind it. Then the execution, alhamdulillah, we got it. I think what we did maximize our chance. There is always small percentage of luck, tawfiq, whatever, but you have to push for it, and you have to kind of create it. Going back also to something as you said about school, one of the reasons that pushed me to stay in the school was the environment was amazing. The professors were amazing. Competition inside were amazing. I learned a lot in terms of like time management, stress management, etc., etc. So I think those are the things that made me also realize, I want to keep going here and finish until the end. Also, the technical background that I was learning as well was not necessarily what I wanted to do in the future. I'm not necessarily using right now, but I think my time in university was very, very beneficial for me and forged my personality and also like professional behavior between brackets. As to answer your
Love
question,
that. Let's go back to the journey. We stopped
yes,
at you got the job at the consultancy.
yes. So firstly, I got an internship. And
Okay.
again, as I mentioned, it was new for them. So one part of the internship was kind of creating the project that I had to do. On the same times, I was working with their teams, doing like engagements with client, like meeting client, helping them with their daily job. On the same times, I have to prepare like my end of year project and end of year thesis, etc., etc. So first step was analyzing what they needed and creating something for them that will help them. On the same times, on parallel, I was working on the projects, which was, to be honest, very difficult because it's how time consuming is working in consultancy, add to it projects, etc. But again, if you are passionate about something and you do see value in it, you don't feel that you're working or being exhausted or whatever. So at this moment in time, I thought that I figured out my career. I know what I want to do. I really liked consulting at the time. I really liked the firm that I worked with. I met amazing people, which again always been for me a very important factor. And I'm still very very close with a lot of them now. So I thought, okay, I'm gonna do this for a long period of time, etc. And I was doing the project, those different engagement, ila akhirah. Until new opportunities appeared out of nowhere. And if we see generically, I think that's something that also happens in life. And if I have to give like generic advice, always be open for new opportunities, even if you are not considering them, you know? So at the time, what happened, we got a visit from McKinsey, which is a huge consulting firm, a bit different from, at the time I was in PwC, a bit different from PwC. They do more, McKinsey do more like management consulting, etc., on a higher scale as well. And they're very, very selective, right? And that's something that caught my attention as well. I remember when they were coming, to be very honest with you, I didn't know what McKinsey were, but my friends told me about it. And again, one thing that really caught my attention is when they said, usually McKinsey only hire from Harvard and Stanford, etc., etc. I'm like, hmm, okay, I'm interested, you know? So they had this graduate program where a couple of partners in the Morocco office decided to give chance to people from local universities, and our university is one of them. So they came to us and they said, okay, we're going to hire a couple of you in a graduate program. We're doing an exception because, again, diversity, we've seen value from people who came from similar universities. إلى آخره. So I thought, yeah, why not? And the thing is, it's you have to understand the process. It's so complicated and so tough that they actually send consultants that are paid a lot of money, and they flew them home in Algeria just to train us to prepare for the interview. So we had like a whole day of coaching from their consulting to prepare us on how we should prepare the interviews. And those people were like really brilliant. I remember they came in their suits with their suitcase directly from the airport, which was very, very cool. And at the time I realized that, wow, I know, like, it's not that normal interview that you're gonna just take and see how it goes, like, if you want to take this opportunity, you have to give it everything. And when I thought about it, I think that was also the first time that really opened my eyes that you can actually go very, very, very big, before that, even the consultancy, etc., I think for me it was really huge, etc., but there's always a limit, and you always think that, okay, if I don't do like those big schools or wherever, I'm never going to be reaching like big companies like this. But that time, like, it really allowed me to like kind of dream even bigger. Well, anyway, so we had to give it 200%. The interviews were primarily case studies, etc. And I remember at the time in the first coaching session they asked us a simple question: what is profit? How do you I was an engineer. I never had any classes in Python or wherever. So I didn't know the answer. Although it's very, very simple. Like, if you ask anyone who sells anything on the street without any education, they knew it. I didn't know it, to be honest. I started really from the bottom. I had a very nice group of friends. At the time, we decided to meet every weekend and prepare for the interviews, right? So I remember within around maybe 50 case study. Every case study would take around 1 hour. So imagine that was a lot of time that we spent together doing those case studies, learning together different industries, different businesses, common challenges they had. We learned also a lot of structure, how to like structure your idea when you're proposing something using different kind of frameworks, ideologies, etc., etc. But anyway, we worked super, super hard for it, and we were able to kind of exponentially increase our business acumen, to be honest, like really from zero into not being an expert, but being someone who at least understand the different factors when it comes to business strategy and management, etc. Then obviously interviews happened. I passed many, many rounds, made it to the final one. The final one, they actually flew me to Morocco to pass the interviews in their own office. They put me in a nice hotel. And I remember at the time, for a student, it was a huge deal for me. Unfortunately, I didn't get that role. But fortunately, my friend got it, one of the people that we were preparing together. So, like, it turned the sadness into happiness. So at least one of us got it. So I was like, in a way, it helped absorb the shock at the time. But anyway, I thought at the time, okay, one door is closed, other one will be opened, and I finished the internship, and at the end of the internship, they offered me a job. So I was really excited to keep doing what I was doing in PwC. However, again, the McKinsey experience also opened my eyes and made me really realize that I really want to move into business. So starting the second year, I started looking for master's scholarship to do something in consulting, in management or economy, etc., etc. And I was lucky to get an interview in a big university in Belgium, which is called the College of Europe, that offered also scholarship because financially I needed it as well at the time, to go out to the country and go study there. So funny story again. I got accepted to the interview for the College of Europe, and I had to prepare for it while also working very long hours at my job. But it was in economy. It was not in management. It was not in something generic. It was very specific. And let's say I had no idea about economy. You know, I had zero ideas, and that was like a master's degree. And they assumed most people I were with at the end, they already had at least a bachelor. A lot of them had a master in economy. Some of them had at least a bachelor. I had nothing. You know, I remember preparing for the courses using YouTube videos, crash course YouTube videos, like 3 minutes animation that explain inflation. You know, I've always heard about inflation, but I don't know what it meant. I was too tired from work to actually read a book or do a proper course. So I remember watching videos, like silly videos that helped me, learn and learn very fast. And yeah, by the time the interview came, I was ready for it. And alhamdulillah, I got the offer and scholarship, etc. So then I was going to go to Belgium. Before that, COVID happened. A lot of companies at the time, they didn't have, especially consultancy, they didn't have any projects. So we went on long-term leave, and it was a blessing in disguise in a way because it allowed me to prepare for the master. So after passing the interview, I realized, okay, I got the interview, but still, if I want to be successful in the masters, I need to be at least on the same level as other students that are there, right? So what I did, I tried to simulate a bachelor degree in economy. So I've looked different universities and looked what those people study in their bachelor degree. And I was very lucky and fortunate at the time. In COVID, there was a lot of learning platforms that decided to open up hundreds of courses for free because of COVID and encourage people to study. And I was also fortunate because I had time now. I was not working. So I spent, I remember, 2 months of COVID doing courses every day. So I was able to do, I think, if I'm not mistaken, 33 courses or 32 or something, which was the equivalent of kind of a bachelor degree in economy. So I then moved to Belgium. I was way more comfortable talking about economy, business, etc. I developed a bit myself. I was a bit on the same level as other peers, and alhamdulillah, it was a very good experience. Had amazing teachers, amazing peers. Ended up being top of class as well, and that opened the door for Google later on. In a way, because still I studied economy, not digital marketing, but a couple of courses was about digital marketing, and also what we've been doing is directly related to business. So I applied for Google through the help of a very, very, very close coach of mine. She knows that I want to say hi from this. Always grateful for all the support I've gotten from her. Yes, from you as well. You're muted, Azan.
I was saying, hi, Shehnaz, you owe me a coffee as well.
Yeah, so actually, an interesting story about Shinaz. The thing is, although I was very successful at school, let me say, okay, I'm gonna share this with everyone. I was not that successful applying for a job at the time, to be honest. I remember it was COVID. It was not easy. Not many companies were hiring. I was an immigrant, so I need paperwork, etc. And you know how complicated that can be. So I remember I was applying everywhere, and kept getting rejected everywhere. I remember, like, I think I gotten more than 40 rejection at the time before getting even my first interview with Google or before Google. So to be honest, there was a time you think you made it, then life happens, then you start doubting yourself, etc., etc. So it was a bit of a dark moment period, like a transition period. And that's where, like, randomly Shina's reached out on LinkedIn and she's saying, like, yeah, we're here to promote, we want to help students like you get jobs, etc. And they were doing like a mentorship program. So I joined, I got coached by her, other amazing advisors from different big companies. in the region. And all of that helped me as well, like again build a solid CV, how to handle interviews, etc. And get referrals were super important at the time, because again it maximizes your chance of getting an interview. So alhamdulillah, I got the interview. I remember I prepared for it. I read everything ins and out about the company, about the product, about the different things, and I was hoping to get the job. So that's in a way how I landed in Google. Now, also, obviously, after Google, long story as well. But I feel I've been
We get
talking a lot. I want to give you time.
no, no. I actually, I think, like, yeah, we did take long time, but I think you literally hit the nail on the head on every point that I actually wanted to touch. Like, I love when you said when you were preparing for the McKinsey interview that you put a 200%. That's a very important. Like, if you want to aim high, you need to be able to put that 200%, not 100%, not 150, 200%. Like, that's a very important. I also loved what you said. Unfortunately, I didn't get the job, but my friend got it, and he said that with a smile. I think it's very important to realize, for us to realize, that some opportunities are just not for us,
Yeah,
and we need to be happy for other people. That's a very important thing, because someone who prepared for 200 might not be happy for someone else to take that, right? So I think having that genuine smile when you said it, it speaks a lot about the person. That's the second thing. The third one is, you said, now I can't even read my handwriting. So I and then when you spoke about going for the scholarship in economic and applying for it, I loved that you knew that this is where you wanted to go. You didn't know what to do. It wasn't easy, but you aimed for it. So
mm,
it's very important that we know that life starts at the end of the comfort zone. So there
yeah.
was a lot of things that the fact that you don't know shouldn't stop you from doing it. So people need to jump on the water, even if they just put like a life vest and just jump. Like, you don't need to be a good swimmer.
I have a saying here. I always
And
say,
then I love your story. Yeah,
I was just saying, I
say
always
it.
say when it comes to this, sign up now and figure it out later.
Exactly. So I love that. That's going to be my quote for this week. Sign up now, figure it out later. And I like how you prepared very thoroughly to go to that ready, and you made the most out of the available resources. And I think it's very important, and I love what you're saying. It's not like you're not a person who's coming from a money, or someone who's went to private school. No, you're someone who literally look for opportunity, figuring it out, and get it there. So I think I like the fact that you made the maximum out of the available platforms that out there, whether it's a short YouTube video or a Coursera course or whatever, it's available there. I also loved the fact that people need to understand that rejection is normal.
Yeah,
40 rejection for someone who was the top, worked in BWC, did his master, and still got 40 rejection. Rejections happen to all of us, right? And I also like, after the rejection, that reflection of, I might be successful in certain area, but doesn't necessarily mean I'm good at certain things. I might be very successful academically, but it doesn't mean that I know how to do interview the right way. Or I might be very good in writing a 200-page research, but it doesn't mean I'm good at writing my CV. So
yeah,
it's very important to do things. And I think another thing is, on that doubt moments, keep going, because things will change. And I also love the mentorship piece.
yeah.
We need a mentor, we need a coach, we need someone to uplift us and put us on the right track. So there's a huge learning in the story that you told. I think people should walk away with a lot of learning from there. Now you made it to Google,
Hmm.
and I know how awesome you are in your job, and I kind of want to move to the job, because I want to talk more about being in the job,
Hmm.
and I want to talk about being in Google. handling hundreds of clients
Hmm.
and six figures targets,
Yeah.
and carrying that while at the same time stay true to yourself as Sid. So
Hmm.
tell me about the job, and then we can touch on keeping that authenticity elements into the game.
Yeah. So yeah, to be honest with you, again, that's something that got repeated a lot in my journey or experience. Every time you reach a point and you think, okay, I crossed a long hill, now it's time to rest, you realize that you actually now at the beginning of a longer hill. So that's actually how I felt when I finally got the job at Google. It was again huge achievement, and my chances of getting there are very slow, very low if you rewind everything. But alhamdulillah, I got there. Then you think, okay, now actually you have to be successful here. So you realize it's another hill that you have to climb. You have to put in the same effort, maintain the same discipline and rigor that actually got you to that job in order to maintain it and be successful in it, and move forward as well. So when it comes to the job, exactly, yeah, there was a lot of elements that were very challenging in the beginning. You mentioned the number of customers we have to deal with, and it's very sensitive. Again, we are talking about how people make money. So sometimes if something doesn't go well, they're impacted, their business is impacted, their job are the line. So it's a huge responsibility that you need to address properly. On the same time, you have to give everyone their share, so you cannot just spend a lot of time on one client while you leave others unattended. So I think it goes down to portfolio and time management at the end, making sure that you are prioritizing customers who need urgent requests, you're prioritizing customers who really need your help, while also focusing on whatever internal objectives that you have, because at the end of the day, it's also a job. That's something that you need to do, constantly do, to make sure that you are using your time in the best possible way. I mentioned discipline and rigor. You have to figure out a way to be efficient and maintain those habits. A lot of time, it's a matter of habit. If you have good practices, it can set you up for success. والعكس صحيح. The opposite is correct as well. It can set you up for failure. So those are a couple of things that helped me in the beginning. There was a lot of challenges. One of them was very funny, that dealing with different Arabic dialect was very difficult for me in the beginning, because again, coming from North Africa, we have different. Us, we understand each other, like Sudanese, Algerians, Tunisians, Moroccans. But talking to someone, for example, from Saudi Arabia or from Jordan or wherever, that was very new for me. So I remember in the beginning, like, that was a big part of the experience as well. But again, with time, with the right mindset, you move on and move on very quickly. Another thing that really helped is documentation. So again, you handle a lot of people, so you cannot count on your mind. Like our cognitive capabilities are very limited when it comes to this, on handling a large number of data. So you have to take notes on everything. You have to use like proper project management tools to set tasks, set deadlines, put reminders, etc. I think that's something that really helped me, making sure that when I talk to a client and I have a context, I know how to keep it, I know how to follow up. And I think that was something that I actually learned from my consultancy experience, making sure you document everything you do, you keep track of everything, you follow up till the end, etc. Secondly, I think ownership is also something very important. You can't just sit there and expect to be successful. So you have to be responsible, put in the effort, ask other people. You mentioned mentorship, and I think that's something that you always have to do. Continuous learning, whether it's from people in the same environment as you, so like your manager, other managers. You do remember how many times I came to you for asking for advice, or other peers as well, but also sometimes outside of your bubble. You have to get ideas outside of your comfort zone. So this is where you do your own research. I remember I read a lot of books to learn about different techniques, etc. And last point would be also like being customer centric. I think it make a huge difference if you really work with your partners, as you care for them. You really listen to them. You really try to solve their problems. That makes the relationship very easy to build, and it avoids you a lot of um wasted time, in unnecessary challenges, etc., etc. So I think that was for me also something that really helped me uh, in my Google career so far. Second question was it?
So said sales, yes, I'm gonna ask it again. So sales is competitive by
Yes.
nature, and it comes with a lot of stress, a lot of pressure. You have target, you have competition, you have a lot of things. How can a salesperson maintain their authenticity, but at the same time stay a top performer? Because you are a top performer, the king of revenue. So, how do you maintain that authenticity and rightness kind of in the way that you do things, but at the same time be a top performer?
Yeah. So to be honest with you, in my way of seeing things, authenticity, if you are authentic, it's a no-brainer, and it's not a choice. It's just who you are. And fun fact, I want to mention this, but I was not always like this. Like, authenticity is something that I've heard a lot since I joined Google, from you, my manager, other people. I didn't know I was, to be honest. I was just, I am who I am. Then you kind of try to understand that, okay, that's something interesting. I try to look back and understand how I became like in this way, or how I decided to have this as a philosophy or life philosophy. And I realized that I was the completely opposite when I was a kid. And I do this entirely to my father. So just to give a small example, I remember as a kid, and that's something very common in the region. If your neighbor gets a bike, you go ask your parents for a bike. And that's something I used to do all the time. Every 2 minutes, a friend gets something, I'll go to my father. I want a bike, etc. And my father, God bless him, and my entire family, is a very generous man, very kind person with a big heart, very smart as well, especially in the way he educated us. So he will not say no. He'll tell you okay, then he'll postpone. Like, okay, I'm busy now, no, 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 no. Then he come back a week later or 2 weeks later. By the way, do you still want a bike? I'm like, nah, I don't need it. So why did you ask me then? I'm like, but Muhammad got it. But yeah, Muhammad got it doesn't mean you have to get it as well. So since a kid, he kind of introduced these elements to me, even as a student when I was in university, etc. My father never interfered in my life. He completely trusted my decisions, but he always tell me, you have to take your own decision. You have to forge your own path. And I think that was a piece of advice that I'll never forget, and I always apply in my life, and I'm very, very grateful for it. So again, similarly in university, as I mentioned earlier, my pathway is completely different from other people. I've always kept that in mind, that wherever I have, whenever I'm doing, is something that I must be believing in. It's not something that other people did, or something that society is forcing. Obviously, I'm saying this, but it has to stay within social norms, within laws. I'm not saying you have to do whatever you have in mind. You have to be respectful of others, etc. But there's a lot of choices that you have to do and follow your heart, right? So that was a bit the journey of authenticity in a way. And once you get there, I think it's one of the best things you ever do, because you become so chill. Firstly, life is already too complicated. You have to make it as simple as you can. So when you're being true to yourself,
Are you
on
sure of the chilling part?
in a way, yes. And chill when you make decisions. Obviously, those decisions usually are challenging. But again, if you do it because you want it, you go through the process and you face those challenges, adi, because you want that, not because you doing it to show people that you're doing it. I'm saying this. I'm not saying, by the way, just to clarify something. Not saying you should not be look up to people or get inspired by other people. That's something that I also do when I like having like role models, people to aspire to, etc., etc. But not follow them blindly. You have to have your own core belief and follow it. Now, to answer your question, I think once you do that, you kind of prioritize things. Like, you understand that you have your own values, you have your boundaries, etc., that you'll never cross, and nothing is worth it, not a promotion, not a performance, wherever. So those are clear guidelines that will make sure that you don't go apart. Secondly, when you do this, you kind of come up with your own ways of doing things. I'm not gonna lie, there was a lot of moments in Google, and that I was struggling with my performance or wherever. But again, when you do have a strong belief in your values, you don't change them to change your performance, but you sit together, reflect, you ask for feedback, you ask for coaching, you do your own research, and you come up with new ways. Those new ways will help you be different from your competitors between bracket or your peers, and will help you become successful at work as well. So I think that's what I would advise people to do. Always try to be innovative, get your own way of doing things, make sure you stick to your values, and you should be fine.
Sid, I want to stay here for a while because someone who's very successful, brilliant, and really good in building connections and building relationships. Um, there was a time where you had kind of you stuck, right?
Mm,
And I seen you change your mindset, and I
mm,
seen you fly after that. Without going into the details of what happened, I want you to touch on the journey of starting to think different and
mm.
the reward once you change your mindset.
Very good question. So, firstly, I think what really helped me again is being surrounded by brilliant people. I mentioned you, I mentioned my manager Nalwar, many people in our team. And those are the people that first make you realize that, again, you're stuck because this and this and this. And there are people who really helped me a lot, you know, dedicated a lot of their time to first listen to me, understand the situation, and give me clear guidelines. As you mentioned, there was times where I was stuck, especially in my own mindset, without going into a lot of details. But I think my own thoughts and my own way of seeing things were blocking me from making the most of the situation I was in, right? For multiple reasons. So I think the first step is having this support system around. And there's a saying that I really like: if you're the smartest person in the room, you're in the wrong room. And I feel that's the first step. Firstly, because you have to acknowledge that you are not right. After that, you have to find solution. And again, you mentioned this early on. It's super important to find the right coaches, the right mentors, people who care about you, care about your success, and are qualified. Like, these are people who are amazing. Again, I mentioned you, my amazing manager Anwar. And in a way, okay, I'm gonna say it live, but I'm Algerian. I'm a bit stubborn. A lot of time, very stubborn actually. But being around people who are brilliant and who achieved way more than I ever did, again, I mentioned Shinaz as well. I kind of tricked myself into listening to you guys. I'm like, listen, like, I'm talking to Razan, she did this and that and that and that. She knows what she's saying. Like, the least you could do is listen. Like, don't go confront or debate without having to debate whatever. Listen, take it home later, digest it, try a couple of things. They definitely know more than you in many things, and see, if it works, it works. If it doesn't, find other ways. And I think that was the first time I started kind of shifting my career and leaning on other people. And then I actually remember, even I got that feedback. I don't remember if it was in Google or even before that. Sometimes you have to lean on other people. You can't just rely on your own thoughts. As successful as you can be, you'll always reach a limit, and you need external point of view. So I think that's really helped me. Another thing, it's gonna be extremely funny hearing me saying this, but you have to be patient. And that's the main advice I kept hearing and hearing and hearing a million times. And that's not easy, especially for young people and our new generations. But that's a game changer. You cannot expect to change your mindset or your performance or wherever overnight. Those are things that takes a lot of time. So you have to wait. You have to trust the process in a way. You have to trust people around you and wait for the outcome. But obviously, you're also doing your best in the meantime to get there. So overall, I think that's what really helped me, and that's opened my eyes and made me change my mindset. And hopefully, it will continue doing the same, because it's an endless journey. Again, I think the similar things might happen in the future when I take even more difficult challenges, and you'll have to go through the same cycle again. So I think it's a framework that I've seen that's proven to be successful, and yeah, I'd highly recommend it.
I love this, Sid, and I kind of jot a couple of things that people could take away. I love when you started this part, you talked about after you were on the PC, came to Google, and you just thought, oh, I made it, and then you discover, oh, there's another hill to climb, right? So every time you make it to a certain level, there's more that you need to do, and we need to be mentally prepared for that, and we need to be resilient enough to understand that every stage of our life is a different hill that needs to be climbed. I love your quote about if you are the smartest person in the room, you're in the wrong room. I always say, be the idiot in the room, right? Be the idiot in the room. I love that, and I think that's a very important, and it requires a lot of confidence and security. Someone to be secure, to be able to stay in a room where people are more smarter, but and also to stay and say, oh, hey, I don't know this, I'm not familiar with this, I want to learn this. This is not something people should be ashamed of. Contrary, you should be very proud of being brave and secure and confident in saying, "What the hell? I don't know." Like I always come to you guys like, what's this? I don't understand the technicality. It doesn't take away from me as a manager not knowing the technicality. I'm too old for some of the technicality, sorry. But I have other stuff that I can bring to the table. So it's very important. I think I loved what you said about sometimes you just have to listen. You don't need to make a decision. You don't need to follow what Rizan says, what X says, what a 40 years, a 50 years, completely different generation is saying. Yes, we understand different generation, globalization, digital AI, chatbot, and Gemini, but there is certain things in life that doesn't change. Human nature, life, psychology. There's a lot of things. So I think there is no loss in listening. That's a very important. Lean into other. That's not a weakness. That's a strength. We get stronger by leaning into each other. And I like what you said about you are at stage now, you made it, but you would need more because as they said, what got you here won't get you there. So there is certain set of skills that gets you to where you are today. They're not necessarily the right skills to take you to the next level. So, and maybe I can help Sid to move from point A to B, but I'm not the right person to move to help Sid move from a B to C. That's a different person. Sid, we kind of running out of time, but we'll extend for like maybe another 15 minutes for whoever wants to be with us. But I want to touch on you being a coach because
Ah,
that's a very important part. So you are a football coach for young kids. I want you
yes.
I want you to tell me about that. And I want you also to touch how that changed you as a person.
Very good question. I actually completely forgot about this. It's a big part of my life now. I should have mentioned it in the intro, but yes.
No, I did not.
So, firstly, I'm a big football fan. Like I watch football, I play football, I talk about football all the time. So it's like kind of a big passion for me. And when I moved to Ireland, I was thinking I've actually always dreamt to become a football coach. Since I was a kid. Talking with my best friend, saying, "Yeah, one day we'll coach our big team," and it's just like silly talk like this. And I thought, like, actually, why not? Let's check it out. So I checked the process. I've seen it's actually very open. Actually, they ask people to become coaches because you are a volunteer in a way. And yeah, I followed through. I did the first trainings, and I joined the club. Um, firstly, I was like an assistant coach, so it was mostly between bracket, like as an intern, learning from the other coaches around, etc., etc. And honestly, it was a super, super nice experience. It is a super, super, still a super nice experience because firstly, it allowed me to do something productive even outside of work on something that I really like. And I was really surprised by the amount of fun I had and learnings I had from that. So it's working with a large number of kids. You know how difficult that can be, and rewarding and insane can be. You know, kids are very unpredictable creatures. They are very authentic, as you mentioned. They don't know the drama yet. They don't know how to be navigate or wherever. So wherever they say, wherever they do, it comes directly from their brain. So that was super interesting, super fun. Now, how it affected me, honestly, I've learned a lot of things from it. You know, one of them, to be very honest, one of the reasons why I wanted to do it, firstly because again I wanted to do it, and I've been thinking of doing it maybe even at a larger scale when I finish my career, you know, like maybe as a retirement plan. So I have to start preparing even now for from now, although I want to do it after 20 years if I'm still alive. That's one thing. Second thing, it's something that relates to what I do or what I want to do. You know, like, so you're a coach, you're doing a bit of management, so it was kind of a nice introduction for me on leadership and team management, right? So I've learned a lot of things about handling people, handling their frustration, motivating them, encouraging them to be the best version of themselves, developing their skills, etc., etc. So that was one aspect from it. Another aspect, as I mentioned, is gonna sound ironic for people who know me, but patience as well. Uh, you're working with kids, you have to be extremely, extremely patient. You have to be very careful. You know, like it's not the same way you handle adults. So that's something that really drew me out of my comfort zone and made me learn the skill of handling frustration or whatever in a very calm way, which was not necessarily one of my main skills. And finally, interestingly enough, there's a lot of things to learn from kids, you know, from themselves, the way they behave. Because as a coach, you know, you spend a lot of time analyzing, and you're just sitting there. I'm not the kind of coach who start yelling at people like, "Yeah, do that or do that." I just sit there, listen, try to analyze the situation and understand from them. So a lot of things I learned were from the kids. One of them is aspiring for greatness. You know, like kids, they're super ambitious. They want to achieve great stuff. They want to become Cristiano Ronaldo, Lionel Messi, whatever, and they dare to dream about that, and they dare to work for it, and they dare to say it. You know, without assuming that people will say, "Ah, you're crazy" or whatever. So that was very interesting to me to see how ambitious kids are, and I really hope a lot of them will end up successful. Secondly, competitiveness. Kids are insanely competitive. You know, like you will be surprised how serious they take things. Even like the smallest exercise we do, if even though they're friend, they all love each other, but if their friend beat them in the moment, they will not be happy about it, and they will double down the effort in order to win the next one. Although it's just an exercise, we're training, you know, it's not a game, etc. So that was something that was very interesting for me to see how they foster this healthy competitiveness. You know, like we are friends, but I want to be more than you, but without harming you. You know, I'm not trying to drag you down. I'm lifting myself up to be better, and you're lifting yourself up. Then we continue doing this until we are the best. So that was one thing. Resilience as well. Ironically, I learned that from kids. You know, like sometimes we lost with big scores, and you'll think no one will show up for training next week, and they will come in happy, smiling. I know they care about winning, so it's not about not being competitive, but about moving on. And we saw that. I saw that in a very famous series as well, Ted Lasso, about having that goldfish mentality. You know, like you see it, you analyze the situation, you learn from it, then you forget about it and move on. And finally, the last thing is creativity. So we will spend a lot of hours coaching them and telling them what they should do. But the reality on the pitch is very, very different. And a lot of time they ended up doing things that are very, very different about what we try to teach them. A lot of time doesn't work, but a lot of other time it does work. And either way, that was something that we always encouraged. That, you know, we are trying to teach you the fundamental, but in the pitch, it's, you know, football is an art. You have to be creative, do your best, you know. I think these are a couple of things that I learned from them that should be applied even for us adults in the workspace. You know, like again, in companies, there's also processes, there's way of doing things, but it doesn't stop you from trying to find new ways of doing things. You know, or propose a new way of doing things or changing how things are being done. You know, we shouldn't always follow what your coach tell you in a way. But yeah, those are a couple of things about kids. Ah, you're muted.
I said I love that, and I think what I love the most is a message that you should start on your retirement plan today.
Yes.
Whatever, it doesn't matter how old are you or how young are you. Whatever your retirement plan, start today.
Yeah.
Kind of. And I think I do, like, I can see how working with kids teach you patience, competitiveness, healthy competitive. That's very important, because at workplace there's a lot of unhealthy ones, and that's it's good, a good reminder, and resilience and creativity. think I think we and I think the message here is we are born with this stuff.
Mm.
Everyone, we were born with this, but we went to school, we went to work in certain places.
Razan, are you still here? Oops. We'll wait for Razan. 1 second.
Hey, I got kicked out from my own stream.
It wasn't me.
Yeah, I got kicked out. Okay, I think this is one of the benefits of doing your own thing. You can extend it, you can drop, you can come back, you can do whatever. So I was saying, like, we were all born with this, right? We were all born kids, ambitious, competitive, creative, but we kind of, throughout the years and everything that happens to us, we got put in a boxes. And
Yeah.
sometimes just waking up 9 o'clock, going to work, coming back, looking for a job, we tend to forget what we're capable of. And I think it's a very good reminder for everyone to, even if they have a job, what is
Mm.
your passion, what you love. Same, like said, loves football, look for that, and try to bring that side into you, and you're definitely gonna learn a lot out of it. So, Sid, I still have two questions and I want to finish them. It doesn't matter, let the time come.
Yes. I
People
have all.
who are like extended, if you can stay with us, please do. If you drop, the recording is going to be there, and you can listen to the rest of the recording whenever you have time. Sid, leadership.
Mm.
A lot of people look at leadership as a role or
Mm.
a title. So you have to be a manager, you have to be a director, you have to be a VP in order to be a leader, which is not the case. In a lot of cases, a lot of people can be leaders even if they don't have the title as a leader. So I really want you to talk to me and to people who are still with us about that. How can you be a leader when you don't have the title yet? So I'm going to repeat the question. How can you be the leader when you don't have the title yet?
Okay. Very, very interesting question. So there is I have like this street smart response to it, and I have the academic one. So I think what I'll do, I'll
Okay.
start with the academic one and give examples of experiences in life where I actually figured it out by myself. Yeah. Anyway, I've
Okay.
recently that's topic that really interested me because, as you mentioned, I've always wanted to have a positive influence on people around me. I've always wanted management roles, and I still want to. So, and I remember one advice that you actually told me this, and it's stick in my mind, stick in my mind, which is be in the role you want to be. Like prepare for that role from now and try to be in that role now, even before you get it. You don't have to wait until you become a leader, between bracket, in order to be a leader. So I did my research. I tried to learn a lot about these topics, and what I learned from Harvard, actually. So I've done recently a course on Harvard. It all comes to understanding power dynamics, and as you mentioned earlier, how psychology work. So power is something that a lot of people don't understand or misunderstand or misjudge or wherever, although it's something that we have in our daily life, whether it's in work, with family, with friends, etc. Now let's be specific and talk about work. So when it comes to work, as you mentioned, there is the status or positional source of power. So people are powerful because they are presidents, CEOs, founders, etc., etc. But there are other forms of power that a lot of people neglect or don't know they exist. One of them is relational power. So, for example, if you are CEO of a company that I work for and I have very strong relationship with you, I have a lot of area of influence, because I can influence you. You can change how things are done, or I can get your support to implement certain project, or wherever. So one way, if you don't have the title, you can work very closely with those people. And I think it depends, but like a company like Google, I really one thing I like about it is senior people are very, very humble and very open for feedback, and the whole company is open for feedback. So if you have something that you think will be beneficial for the company, you just go to those people and you discuss it with them and you work together in order to implement it. And that's, in a way, you're doing the leadership even though you don't have the role, but you are making the positive impact you're intending to have. And thirdly, you also have the personal sources of power. So you can have your own sources of power, and that will allow you to kind of become a leader in your own way, without having the title, without knowing anyone important as well. So I'll focus a little bit on this part, and I think at the end it goes back to one element, which is earning people trust. So if you want to lead people or you want to help people and influence their life, etc., they need to trust you. You know, for that, what I've learned, there are two things. People will trust you if you show that you know what you're doing, if you're competent and you have the skills, and people will trust you if you care for them. If you show signs of warmth, if you do things for them, you don't do things to check boxes, you don't do things to say, hey, I helped you, don't do things to ask for favors later on. So I think these are the two elements that any person at any point of time need to work on, sorry, in order to gain that kind of trust label and uh, gain that source of power and eventually have an influence on other people. And this is completely independent from your role. I've seen it in my life where individual contributor or even intern, they might they might have a stronger say on some topics and influence people on certain topics more than the managing director, because, as I said, they established this. They might know that specific area more than the managing director, which is completely fine, etc., etc. Now, there's another thing as well to it that needs to be worked on proactively. So, assuming you've done all of this and people trust you and you've been helping a lot of people, etc., etc., and you're preparing for your next role, wherever, or even without that, you are having the impact you want to have to be very wary of how this new situation can impact you personally. So a lot of people falls in what we call like power traps and kind of change themselves. And that's something that happens a lot and will probably keep on going if you don't proactively avoid it. So here what you need to do in order to maintain that trust and not lose yourself to your new power or wherever is basically to have humility. Always have your feet on the ground, aim for the sky, have your feet on the ground, make sure you're not arrogant, you're not showing off to people, you're not too bossy or wherever. even if you have this position, by the way, in order to maintain that relationship with other people. And secondly, empathy. So again, it goes back at the end to caring about people. When you are listening to someone, are you doing it again just to say, you were facing troubles, I was there for you? Are you really doing it because you care about that person and you want their success? I think if you have these two things, you will never struggle when it comes to this, because again, everyone will see you the way you are and see your intention. There is no hidden intentions and no bad intentions, and you should be able to exercise that impact, positive impact on people's life, regardless of your role. I think you're muted. Sorry, Azan. I think you're muted.
Oh,
No,
this absolute. Okay. I really love this, and I again, yes, again, you still can you
no,
hear
no. I
me?
can, yes, yes.
You can't hear me now.
No, I can hear you. I can hear you.
You can hear me now.
Yes.
Okay. So I was saying I really like this, and there is so much again to take away from. I like the fact that we don't need the role in order for us. If you're saying an A player, be an A player. If you said I'm in a job that is smaller than me, I'm overqualified for that job, instead of crying over that, show how you are overqualified, overachieve for that role. You can't be underachieving in a role and say, I'm overqualified for that role, right? So you step in. And I like that you kind of equating leadership with influence. And as a leader, your power come from your ability to influence people, whether to make decisions or to do things in their life or to follow certain things. And I like how it's important that we understand that there is so much different way that we can influence this
Mhm.
situation against us. And I also like the fact that if you're thinking that way, you are also building your personal brand, and you're
Yeah.
presenting yourself as someone who is a true leader. So if you are in a company and you are realizing things and you taking the initiative, being proactive and going to the right people and using the right word and the right timing to show and share with them your observation and your suggestion and your recommendation, that person may say, oh, that person actually have a really valid point. Let's do that. Do you want to be part of that project, right? So even if you didn't get a reward for it immediately, you're definitely going to be stuck into you be remembered into that person, definitely. And I love your closing line of coupling that power with humility and empathy, because I think, and care, right? Because when we do things because we want something back, um, it takes away from that, like it doesn't mean like we're a perfect human being and we're like idealistic, no, but just do things because that person needed, do things because this is the right thing to do things because you were in the right time in that place and you're the person who's supposed to do. And humility is very important. I think that's very important. I think nothing harm people as much as ego and being like full of themselves. Sit to close today, which was brilliant, and I love it, and I enjoyed it, and I hope people who are watching us enjoying as well. And Mimi is saying we are here, loving the discussion with Coach Sid. So, Sid, I want to close with the today title: the dare, the dream, dare, do, right? And I think you demonstrated along the way What does it mean to dare? To dare to aim high, to dare to go for things that you don't know, but you will figure it out later. You dare to be different. You dare to go for things that is, if Mackenzie only hired from Harvard, I'm getting into that company, right? If that university only hired top tiers, I'm gonna be within the top tiers. So that daring, we seen it, having that dream, had that dream and daring to go after that dream, and the do part, like doing it 200%, going the extra mile, going against yourself and trying to do something different, doing a 40 course during the pandemic, like that's the do. So for the people who are listening to us and they're looking for a job, or they want to upgrade themselves and they want to have their own dream, their do journey, what is your strategy for your growth? How do you build your their dream, their do journey for the future? We're talking for your next step. I'm gonna interview you after a couple of years.
Okay, so firstly, I think the title is a genius, is beyond brilliant, to be honest, because when the first time I saw it, I thought that was the name of the series. Then I realized, no, it was the name of this particular talk, and I was thinking to myself, why did she use this title in particular? Then I was thinking to myself, and as you said, it kind of magically summarized my journey in a way. As you mentioned, starting by dreaming first, because if you want to be on point B, you have to wish to be on point B firstly. Then you have to dare and actually leave point A and try to go to point B. Then you have to do it. So super, super brilliant. And I think it's very easy to keep in mind, very easy to remember. And I'll definitely keep it and use it for the future. But if I have to summarize a couple of, practical things that helped me along the way, and I think I already mentioned a couple of them along the interview. First one is environment. Environment makes you or break you, in my opinion. And it's ever changing. It's never changing situation that you'll always be on in. You're always gonna have people in your life. You're gonna always gonna have people live in your life. In good or bad. So you always have to regularly check people around you and make sure that these people are there to raise the expectation high, to lift you up, as you said earlier, to be happy for you, and not to wish for your failure or drag you down or wherever. So I think that was one of the main things, and it's always on, regardless on where you are. Secondly, I think for me, looking up for idols really helped, making sure that you have people to look up for, people that make that dream sound as a reality if you work enough for it. It's not just something theoretical, but other people did it, why not me? And reaching out to those people helps a lot. It gives you a lot of inspiration, or hearing them talk, or hearing them share their experience. So if you're already on this call and you wish to join Google or wherever, you already did a big step toward it. Anyway, other things is to be ambitious. Again, the dream part, I think for me, it's the biggest one. Like you always have to push boundary. Even again, every time you climb a hill, you have to enjoy it for a while, celebrate just a little bit, then pick up your next mountain that you want to climb. Your next big challenge, your next leaving your comfort zone, your next big achievement, or power up, or call it whatever you want. And you always have to move forward. That's something that I always say. That's something that always push me around. You always have to keep moving forward. If you don't move forward, you're moving backward. If you think you made it at this point and you want to stay here, people are not gonna be staying here. They're gonna be moving forward. So with time, you're actually dropping. You're in the same situation. You're dropping. So always move forward. Continuous learning, whether that's from school. Like again, I've done a billion certificates, 2 masters, wherever. I still do classes whenever I can from different universities, online, in person, workshops, trainings, listening to podcasts. Always have that mentality to be hungry for learning. And for me, it's a big investment. You have to invest on your learning and self development, financially, by time, energy, everything. You mentioned that earlier as well. It's super important to have career coach. I'm very fortunate, very lucky to have many brilliant career coach. I mentioned again you, Anwar, Shinaz, and others that have been life changing for me. And I do recommend people to always do that. And again, regardless on where you are, you'll always need people to coach you and to help you and guide you. And what I will add as well, reflections and feedback, super important sometimes to try to step out a little bit, analyze what happened in good or in bad, try to get life lessons out of it and move on, you know. Otherwise you get stuck in a routine and you don't know why you are doing certain things, etc. So always try to leave on, analyze things, get people to feedback you. I'm someone who really values feedback. And when someone tells me you did this wrong or you shouldn't have said that, you shouldn't have been doing that, I'm always happy because, you know, like, oh, I spotted an area of an improvement, you know, like, oh, I have to work on this now. You know, you are making me a better person. So be this kind of people, acts opposite of what I've seen a lot when someone, you know, you give someone a feedback, they go in the defensive and like, no, I actually didn't do this or whatever. And it's an endless debate. Obviously, also pick people who give you feedback, you know, like sometimes it's a waste of time. You're having discussion with someone who just want to criticize for criticizing. Go for people who you think they want your best interest in mind. You know, those are people that they'll never disappoint you, whether you agree with them or you don't, whether you apply it or you don't. These are people who want your best interest in mind. You know, they don't want your failure. So I think that's it overall. Again, dream, dare, do, and keep moving forward.
I'm unmuting myself because someone on the street just decided to start drilling. Um, I love this, and I think the the I don't know what did you call them, but the I can't find the word. I think the advice is that you kind of sum
Yeah.
for the people today for them to kind of be able to cultivate growth. I think I love the fact that if you're not moving, you're moving backwards because in this life, nothing is fixed.
Yeah.
Nothing. The day is not fixed. The time is not fixed. That the Mother Earth is not fixed. Everything is moving. We live in a moving world. And if you don't move, people will kind of just be ahead of you and you become behind. So keep moving, keep that resilience, ask for feedback, and invest in yourself. And um, there is a lot of people say, oh, I don't know. First of all, change your environment. I think that's brilliant, Sid, because a lot of people are sitting in an environments where they're not in the right. So if you want to play in a major league, you need to play as a major league player, right? So if you are in a room where people are on your level or lower than your level, or they don't have the ambitious, they're not interested in learning something new, they are not interested in growing themselves, they just want to sit there and complain about how the systems are wrong, how the world is not fair, how life is tough, that's not the right room. Move away from that room. Look for a room where people are talking about their dreams, where people are trying to find someone to help them, where people are working on crazy projects, where people are trying to do something different. So definitely change the room where you're sitting if you're not sitting on the right room. I always tell people there is so much people. There's a lot of people who are experienced and they're willing to help young generation. Reach out. All what you need to do is to reach out and ask, hey, I'm looking for a mentor. But you also have to be wary of that person and their time. And for me, for example, if you came to me with a specific ask, I will jump to help you. But if you came to me with general ask, believe me, I don't have time for that because you need to do your part so I can help you, right? So some people reach out to me and say, okay, this is my CV, find a job for me. No, I'm not your secretary. I'm not going to find a job for you. That's your responsibility. But someone else comes to me and say, I just worked on my CV, can you have a look at it and let me know what you think? That's a different person, a different mindset, right? So when you go to a mentor, if you're in a job, if you're in a sales and you want to be a sales manager, you look for a sales manager and you say, hey, I want to be a sales manager. You're a very successful sales manager. Would you be able to give me 1 hour every 3 months? They're not going to say no. Go to that hour with very specific question. Do your homework. Come to me. Make me feel like it's worth investing time on it. Coaching. Every coach, in order for them to get their certification, they need to do a minimum of 100 to 500 hours. And a lot of coaches at the beginning, they give a lot of free coaching hours, right? So, and they put the announcement there. If you just went into LinkedIn and you just wrote coach, you will kind of find those people. So people are there, experience that their resources is there, asset that said all what you need to do is you own it and you build a brand, you build a plan for yourself, you dream, you dare, and you do it. Because if you just dreamed it and you didn't dare, it was just gonna stay in that closet. It would never go out. And if you dared and you never did it, it's just going to be a disappointment because you're going to see the other people who dared to do and moving, and you will feel so bad that you didn't do it. Said this been really, really nice. I really loved it. I really enjoyed it. I think there's so much messages that had been passed, and I leave it to you to close it with like final words to people who watched us today.
Thank you so much, Razan. I really, really enjoyed it. And to be honest, I'm really happy I stepped out of my comfort zone as well. These are one of the things that you just look. A few months ago, I
Said
would not. Yeah, can you hear me?
I wanted.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me, Razan? Yes. Okay. So I was saying, yeah, these are
Yes,
something
I
that
can.
perfect. These are something that few months ago I wouldn't do. Razan is one of the people who actually convinced me to do
Yes,
it.
I can hear you.
Make sure.
Internet is that's the today.
No worries, no worries. I think there is a delay, so you're gonna hear this a bit later on, but that's fine. I was saying, yeah, it's super important. I would also tell, I really encourage people to share. You'll be surprised how a simple thing you'll say or comment or send a message on LinkedIn to someone can help them, or how much that can means for them, you know. So I remember as well as a student, these are the kind of things I was always looking up for, like asking people who've worked in consulting or wherever, and they will sometimes give you one advice and you follow it, you stick to it, and it helps you get there. So once you actually get there, make sure that you do your part as well and you start sharing back again to people, and you'll be surprised how much it can help people's life. Some things you might take very slightly, but for other people it means a word and it can change their perspective or life or wherever. So a big thank you for that, Razan. I really hope you find this useful and beneficial for you, and I'm looking forward for the rest of the series as well. There was a lot of amazing people that came to the series. I've been learning a lot. It's becoming my Friday afternoon routine, so I'm really looking forward for the next episodes as well.
Super happy to have you here. I actually have like a really kind of an idea popped into my mind when you were talking about the course of the influence. So I'll talk to you about it. But thank you very much for all the people who joined us today, for those who stayed with us until the end. It was a blast, and weekend is here. Go enjoy it, have fun, live your life, and we'll see you next Friday.
Bye bye.
I'm ending it. Just let's give a
Yeah.
second.